But in case of PostgreSQL, it's much flexible. Actually, you can use different type of security configurations. You can use certificates and so on. Here, in point of database administration, you need to configure a lot of configuration files. Here I can also mention that PostgreSQL is more flexible because, for example, using PG-HBA configuration file, you also can configure it like firewall. You can restrict your application IP ranges, and it will not accept connections from other IP ranges and so on. So this is one big plus for me as a database administrator. Well, the other part, backup and recovery. Actually, another big plus in PostgreSQL here is point-in-time restore. Of course, we have the same situation. If you like to work with graphic interface, PostgreSQL is fast, but here we are using like third-party components such as PG-based buffers and so on, and using wall archiving, we can restore our production PostgreSQL in any point of second. But in case of MS SQL Server, you need to configure log backups, for example, every 5 minutes. And if your workload is much more, it will not complete after 5 minutes, and you will lose your possibility to restore any type of second. Well, performance monitoring and tuning. Here actually, PostgreSQL gives rich system rules such as stats activity, stats statements, where you can easily find your bad queries, your resource-consuming queries. During my experience, for example, I used also the extension, thanks for Percona, it calls PG Stats Monitor. What about the MS SQL Server? Yeah, it gives a lot of system views and dynamic management views that you can find anything. But here also, for example, SSMS, that is built in free tool provided by Microsoft, there are a lot of reports. But here, PostgreSQL also has its equipment such as PG Badger. It's a really good open source third-party component that you can build your reports about your performance tuning and use your performance tuning situations. Of course, for example, I'm using Yerevan now for monitoring. It's open source tool also. It's really good, works with PostgreSQL, with PostgreSQL, and so on. Here is very important part because availability and disaster recovery is very important if you are talking about business critical, mission critical systems. So what we have here, MS SQL Server has a lot of built-in features. But PostgreSQL gives us all the built-in blocks. Here we need to use third-party components, tools. But here, really, in the final slide, I will show the main difference here. We will speak about key differences. But here, actually, I can say from my experience that MS SQL is also a big plus, but of course it's very expensive. Yeah, here we are. So key differences. Licensing. MS SQL Server need to be licensed. Of course, PostgreSQL is all free. For example, in other RDBMS systems such as Oracle DB, here you need to pay by enterprise edition license separately, and you need to pay by enterprise features separately. In MS SQL Server, it's much easy. There are just a few additions you need to pay if your workload is for enterprise edition, huge workload you are waiting, you need enterprise edition. The cost will be final in the final slide. But PostgreSQL is free. And actually, I've compared. PostgreSQL gives much more updates every month than Microsoft, that is paid. Well, platform focus, of course, MS SQL is Windows based. It's Windows, and PostgreSQL is much like Linux native. Process models. MS SQL is thread based, PostgreSQL is multi-process. Here I can just remember my experience. I have that situation in MS SQL. There was a job that ran some extra executable file, and this file just hanged. And the session, I cannot keep the session anymore because it lost the final executable files session in operating system. And it was really painful for me as a database administrator. And even though I tried to find the thread instead in Windows operating system, but I read a lot of articles that it is very dangerous to kill Windows threads in production environment. And I just planned to make a restart to kill this session. But in PostgreSQL, as the model is process-based, here every database session is separate operating system session. And in such case that I already described, you can find process ID, which is the same you can find from PostgreSQL. The same process ID is in operating system, and you just can kill this session. Well, concurrency control. Logs and snapshots in MS SQL Server, and in PostgreSQL multi-version concurrency control. Actually, if you are working with fine text, for example, where every transaction is very important for you, you need 100% ACID, atomicity, and so on. Actually, you will agree with me that MVCC is much preferred. Okay, maintenance jobs. Here we already using the same, third-party components, not such MS SQL Server because it has its built-in service called SQL Agent. Related backups. Here, PostgreSQL has native tools, pgdump, pg-based backups, and so on. HA built-in, as I mentioned, in MS SQL it exists, but in PostgreSQL not exist. And security integration, we already speak about this. So we will sum up what PostgreSQL gives us. What is the difference? Freedom and flexibility. Really, you can even though I had a situation that we need to change block size in database management systems, and we make new build of PostgreSQL and install this new build where the block size was changed. But in other RDBMS systems, of course in Oracle also you can change the block size. But for example in MS SQL Server it's 8K, and that's it, you cannot change anything. So, of course, responsibilities a more steady specialty in database administrator, because as I mentioned, in some cases, in a lot of cases, just your step-by-step guide will help you to set up a SQL Server and your workload will work. Actually, whenever you have have huge amount of data, it will stop work. And when you have huge amount of activity, it will stop work. But in PostgreSQL, you need to change a lot of like parameters. You need to and these changes are like continuous. Because, okay, there are some best practices. You are setting up these parameters by do this, these parameters by do this, based on your server configuration and so on. But during your like day-to-day work, you are finding that something needs to be changed. In MSSQL, it doesn't matter. One time you set up, and in a few months you can forget about it. Well, and license cost, as I mentioned. Here are some figures taken from internet, of course. For example, MSSQL server two core pack license cost is $50,123. It means if, for example, you have 16 core processor server, you need to buy 8 package license. And of course, you need to pay also software assurance. It is a monthly basis like cost. For Oracle, it's huge amount, as I mentioned, and for PostgreSQL, it's 0. But if you are using PostgreSQL, and as I mentioned, you have like huge activity or you are going to have huge amount of data, you need your EDA. Well, so that's all. Thank you. Questions?
Okay, thanks a lot for your talk. And isn't there really no tools for high availability for PostgreSQL?
Yes, really yes, but it's not built in.
Okay. Okay, that's
No, I'm using Percona. Of course, it yes, and there is much more flexibility for me to like using Ansible. I'm building my production environment within 15 minutes.
Yeah.
But in Windows case, you need to like build Windows cluster. It's one day. Another day you need to build MSSQL cluster. It's another day. So.
And
of course,
it's yeah, definitely. Thanks. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you. Other questions?
Hello. Sorry, what about MySQL or database you can replicate, for example, in like Cassandra? You can consider them as alternative for Postgres or not? Or
It's a good question actually, because MySQL has also its like open source version and so on. So why I choose PostgreSQL during my experience? I have a situation. My application system collects and need to process a lot of geographic data. Actually, I use all also MSSQL Saroyan. In that time, I need to process every 5 minutes. It generates 20 million rows. And I need to test. I build test environment with MSSQL, with PostgreSQL, with MySQL. I don't remember the other arguments, but those are used. Because I make just stress tests. PostgreSQL was the best choice. Because using the same server configuration, the same server resources, PostgreSQL's response time was very different. But the other reason why I choose PostgreSQL, as I mentioned, because in my previous company I worked for a company that provides solutions governance. So they need security. They need much more security. They were requirement which RDBMS system gives frequently security updates. Really, I find that the PostgreSQL is the best choice. So yeah, actually this is a good question because in some cases you can, even though I can mention that based on your workload, MySQL is the best choice because it gives you different type of storages, like ESAM, DB, and so on. But in my experience, actually in local and the other companies that I worked, I didn't face this situation. Thank you for the question.
Does Microsoft SQL support vector search out of the box? Does it support JSON storage? Does it support full search?
Well, this is a great question and one of my painful experiences. In first question, vector supports in 2025 version, which is not production ready yet. But in PostgreSQL we have, it's okay. Full text, yeah, it supports actually, but it is very painful when your data is huge. Very painful. Just now I have a situation that I'm thinking solutions how to go from full text because it supports. Because in Microsoft there are a lot of things that it is support. Because it's something like marketing step. Yeah, I'm supporting this. But if we are speaking about huge amount of data, it will not work. And the last one was JSON, yeah, JSON also. But it is a great question because I have this situation. I make stress tests. In JSON, in PostgreSQL, we have indexes. But in MSSQL, we don't have such indexes. There are no cluster between indexes. So yeah, this is another point that you will make choice why to use PostgreSQL, for example. Thank you for the question. That's all? Okay, thank you so much.